Now, this might come as quite a surprise to many people. Who could be the happiest man I've ever met? I'm David Essel, 43 years now in the world of personal growth. But the story I'm going to share with you right now, this story is so precious to me. I've written about it in books, and I wanted to share it today. I think the world needs more stories like this of how to be happier and how to be happier with what we have versus wanting something more. It's a dilemma. You know, mass consciousness, advertising, marketing is very powerful in making us feel right now, many of us making us feel that we need something else to be happy, a new car, a new jeans, new purse, new something, right? And let me tell you the story of Joe. It's a surprising story. A number of years ago, I was living on Sarasota, Florida, running these big bridges on the way to Longboat Key every day and back. And I was coming back over. I'd actually injured my knee, and I went out for a run anyway. It wasn't a smart move, but I hobbled up the bridge and hobbled down the bridge and ran as far as I could, probably 5 or 6 miles. But my knee was killing me. And I finally came back to the top of the bridge, and I couldn't run anymore. I basically walked to the top of the bridge, and as I'm overlooking the city, it's beautiful, beautiful vision on the top of this bridge. I see this individual on the side of the road, and it's very busy, 5, 6 o'clock at night, 4 lanes of traffic. I mean, the place is just crazy as can be. And I see him start to run out and come back in and run out to cross the road and go back in. And finally, it looked like he'd put whatever in his hands down on the ground. I said, oh my God, this is great. The guy's going to wait. No sooner did I think that he picked up whatever he was carrying and started running across. He made it a half of a car length across the road and got hit head on. I'm standing there at the top of the bridge going, oh my Lord, watching him flip across 3 lanes of traffic like a rag doll, landing on the other side of the road, smacking on the concrete. His full body just slamming on the concrete. And I said, oh crap, what? I couldn't believe what I just saw, so I sprinted. I'll tell you, that's the power of adrenaline, right? I sprinted down to him. I was the first one there. As a matter of fact, no one even stopped for a period of time. And he's screaming on the side of the road. He's thrashing. He's in so much pain. And I took my sweatshirt off. It was cold. Wrapped it up in a ball, put it underneath his head, grabbed his hand, and I asked him his name, and he was screaming so loud. He said, it's Joe. I said, Joe, I'm here with you. You're never alone. Hold my hand, squeeze it. As the pain gets more intense, squeeze my hand harder. This guy had hands of rock. Oh my God, they were so thick and calloused, and he was squeezing my hand, and I looked in his eyes and I said, Joe, stay with me, stay with me. And I'm just praying someone has called the cops by then or the ambulance by then. And he's screaming in pain and he's crying and he's squeezing my hand, and I'm just calling my angels and saying, please come and help this poor gentleman. Please, God, please. And as I said that, I felt this wave come through me of calmness, and I stared down. I had tears in my eyes watching him in such pain, crying. And as I stared down at him, he looked up at me. His crystal blue eyes, the most gorgeous eyes I've ever seen. And through his pain, all of a sudden, the face of Christ appears. And here's this gentleman screaming in pain, staring at me with these gorgeous blue eyes. And I'm just seeing Christ. And I keep holding on to him and saying, hang in there, Joe. There's people coming to help us. Hang in there, hang in there. And by now, it's probably been 5 or 6 minutes. There's a crowd of people standing around. The ambulance, we found out later, was given the wrong address. That's why they weren't there in 3 minutes like they normally were. And Joe is just unbelievably racked in pain. Now, I'm going to stop right here, and you might be thinking, how the heck is this story going to show us how this guy, we're assuming Joe, is the happiest man David ever met, or one of the happiest men? And let me tell you what happens next. They take him to the hospital. I wait a day. I call. He's back in another surgery. He had multiple surgeries. And I finally get him on the phone a number of days later, and he picks up. He goes, hello, and I go, hey, Joe. He said, yes. I go, hey, my name is David, and I'm the guy that was standing with you or laying next to you and holding your hand when you got hit about 3 days ago. And all of a sudden he goes, oh my gosh, I know who you are, and thank you so much. And I said, thank you so much. He said, yeah, for helping me, all the things that you did, helping me there. And I mean, he remembered freaking everything, right? And I remember that when they took him into the ambulance that they were asking me questions. What was in his knapsack? I said, I don't know. And they said, well, he's a homeless guy. He had no teeth, which I could tell he was homeless, but they just reinstated that. And I said, Joe, I don't know what you need. He said, hey, I could use anything. I don't have any T-shirts left. I think everything fell out of my duffel bag. I said, I'll be there this afternoon. I came into the hospital room, the biggest toothless smile you could ever imagine. Now, here's a guy that was just hit head on, thrown across three lanes of traffic, went through multiple days of surgery, and he's got the biggest smile on his face. And I said, Joe, it's great to see you. He said, no, it's even better to see you. And I said, listen, I got you a couple things. I got you some T-shirts and shorts. And I said, I got you some food. He goes, oh, I'm so glad you brought food. He said, the hospital food here is terrible. And I started laughing, and he's laughing. And I pull out peanut butter and crackers, and he looks at me, and he goes, David? I said, yes. He goes, I can't eat that. I said, why? He said, I have no teeth. Have you not noticed? And he started laughing, right? And I'm dying. I'm going, this guy is in basically casts all over his body. He is in pain, but he's laughing and smiling at the fact that I didn't even think twice when I brought peanut butter and crackers that a guy without teeth can't eat that, right? So we both started laughing, and I sat there for over an hour talking to him, finding out about where he was from and the rough life he had led. But, he said this to me. He goes, David, he said, people look at me as being homeless, and he said, having a really rough life. And he said, I don't look at it like that. He said, I'm really lucky. He said, I wash windows. I go up and down Main Street, and I offer the business owners, for a few dollars, I'll clean their big windows. He said, I sleep outside at night. He said, I actually am a really happy guy. I said, Joe, how can you be happy without any money or without any of this? He said, I have enough to get by. He said, that's really not that important. And I was taken aback, right? Here's a guy just had a major surgery, and he's saying, hey, I'm fine. And then as I'm walking out, he goes, hey, could you find me something I can eat? And I go, absolutely. And I came back later with something else he could eat. And I followed him into a rehab center. And, because he had no money, he went into a state-operated facility, of course, which was not the nicest of any facilities you could ever imagine going into. But I told him I was there to see Joe, and they knew exactly who I was talking about. And there he is, a little picture of him outside of his doorway. He's got one of the T-shirts I brought him on with this big toothless smile. I knock on the door, and he goes, oh, my gosh, I've been waiting for you. And I wheeled him out into the courtyard where he was in a wheelchair so we could, sit and talk. And he was in an incredible mood again. And every time I went back to visit him, he never complained. The only thing he complained about was food. Here's a homeless guy that probably eats out of trash cans, and he's going, God, the hospital food's terrible, the rehab food's terrible. So I would bring him a few little things every time I came in. But I wanted to share that story because, those people sometimes with so little appreciate anything and everything. Joe didn't look at himself as a homeless man victim. He said, I got myself here, David. I was an alcoholic for years. I lost a family. I lost jobs. I lost everything. He said, until I learned how to live on the streets and be happy. And he said, I'll always be happy, David. Don't ever worry about me. He said, I hope to see you again. But he goes, I'll always be happy. Can we say the same thing? If we have a roof over our head, but we take that for granted, right? We have enough money for a sandwich, even if we're making it at home, but we take it for granted. I think the message today is as much for me as it is for you. We have so much control over our moods, over our attitudes, and we have a tendency to give in. We have a tendency to want more and never be satisfied with less. And so I don't know what message you're supposed to take out of this, but I hope it's a really great one. And I will never forget Joe. In this book, How to Experience Heaven on Earth, it's available at Amazon.com. I tell the story of Joe. I tell the story of a lot of other people that are experiencing, I believe, heaven on earth. I tell the story of a young woman with Down syndrome who's one of the happiest people I've ever met. It's in the same book, okay? So grab, if you want to, How to Experience Heaven on Earth at Amazon and read about Joe and read about Megan and read about, other people that have found a way to experience heaven here amidst all the chaos and drama. I want the same for you. If I can help at all, I'll put my stuff below, my address, davidessel.com or talkdavid.com. If you want to comment, feel free to comment, share this video. I would love to see more people hear about people like Joe in the news today. We have mainly negativity and sensationalism, and we're bringing good news as often as we can. I'm David Essel. Have a beautiful day, and be like Joe.